And welcome to another Creative Spin podcast. And this episode, it's kind of cool. Hey, Anna, how's it going?
It's going very well. How's it going with you?
It's going very well as well. Thank you for asking.
It's
I mean,
summer.
we were just talking. I mean, we live together. But yeah, okay, it's always good to ask a question. Why not? All right, so on this episode, I actually got to interview someone else, and you weren't in that recording.
Oh, the old lady was not there.
You weren't there, but I decided that I would put the old lady here on the intro so that she wouldn't feel bad and just start going. Why am I not in the video?
I was beginning to be
Why am I not in the video?
left out.
That's your voice. Do you like your voice?
I seriously doubt that's how I sound.
Okay. So I don't know if you know. I think you do. I interviewed Jazz Takhar.
You did mention that, yes.
Yes, I did. It's the second time Jazz has been in our podcast. It's been about a year. I would say about a year that we had him in our podcast. And, like all podcasters, we reach out to each other, and he reached out, and here we are. And now, I spoke with him for a little bit. It's always fun. He's got a lot of energy going on. Jazz is basically someone that is coming from an entrepreneurial side. Mm-hmm. He's been in real estate for forever. I think about 20 or 25 years or something like that. He's the co-founder of the Rec Canada, which is a real estate agent together with I would say Royal LePage. Mm-hmm. So, and then aside from that, I mean, he's a great entrepreneur, investor. He's got his own podcast, which is the Rec Experience. We're gonna leave like all of these links and all of these things
So
underneath.
people can check it out.
Like everybody says, check the comment below on the descriptions. We have all of the, we have all of the links there. You got to do the YouTube thing.
Hey, listen.
I know we're old,
yeah.
but you need to get with the groove, okay?
No, I'm okay with that.
This is how it works in this YouTube land, all right? And podcasting
Subscribe.
land. Yeah, subscribe down below. But, I'm just here thinking, what if you're just listening to us in the car?
How do you do that?
Yeah, it's
Make
gonna
a
be kind of
note?
weird. But anyways, you'll figure it out. It was a fun talk. Bottom line, let's go back to the topic, man. Why do we keep
You were the one.
me? No,
Yes.
it was you.
I said absolutely nothing.
And then, as I was saying, I spoke to Jazz, and it was a fun podcast. So you know what? Let's just hit that intro and go into the podcast before I get beaten up. All right, guys, have fun. Today's podcast is brought to you by Workplace One, a company offering boutique private offices, co-working spaces, and virtual office solutions, as well as meeting rooms in the best neighborhoods of Toronto and Kitchener-Waterloo. Ideal for entrepreneurs, companies, and passionate business people. Workplace One is where you want to be with your business. For more information, go over to workplaceone.com. Jazz, welcome once again to the Creative Spin podcast, man. How's it going?
It's amazing, buddy. It's even going better now that I see that beautiful smile on your face. It's just nice it's nice to be around your energy, and you asked for me to come back on. I was like, no brainer. I would do this for you anytime. The content that you're putting out there on a regular, man, is it's so refreshing.
Yeah, I wouldn't say a regular. It will be more. There's always a promise of more, but let's see what happens.
It's more than the average bear is doing. You know what I'm saying? And
True.
So I'm happy that you're putting out content. I know how hard it is, and I really, really appreciate you having me back on, brother.
No, I welcome you once again, open arms. And for those of you who are watching and haven't watched the previous episode that we recorded with Jazz, Jazz, you're the co-founder of Rec Canada. You are the host of the REC Experience, and that's the part I want to talk about more because podcasting, social media, that's my life. That's what I like talking about. How long has it been? It's over 2 years now, right?
It's actually we just hit 2 years back in April. So
Yeah.
a little 2 years and a month and 2 months.
Because I know we kind of started more or less at the same time. That's why I'm kind of
Yeah.
thinking about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's become part of my. You mentioned it right now, right, Jimmy? It's it's like your whole life. It's definitely becoming a bigger, much bigger part of my life. I enjoy it so much. I love putting out content. I love trying to get creative and figuring out new ways to
how many
to
episodes up
articulate the
until
message.
how many episodes have you got?
We just did 110 episodes right now. We're at
Woo!
110
That
episodes.
is,
Yeah, I'm very
you've
proud to
been
say
busy.
every single Wednesday, we come out with a new episode. It really goes, like, the topics are around real estate, as you mentioned,
Yep.
a co-founder of REC Canada, which is a real estate firm here
Mm-hmm.
based out of Toronto, in the greater Toronto area. But my passions are documenting my journey through entrepreneurship
Yep.
and the guys and gals that I'm meeting and the stories I'm hearing and what inspires me. And so I thought, hey, why don't I bring them on my podcast as well and let others be a fly on the wall?
So this has been kind of the evolution of your podcast, because correct me if I'm wrong, but when you started, it was more real estate oriented, and then you kind of figured out that, you know what,
so
the other
first
passion
20
has to come in as well, right?
Yeah, it was the first 20 episodes or so. I think, to be exact, it was 17. My co-host kind of slash director of sales and marketing, Laura, was just making mention of it to our team a couple of days ago in a team meeting, that it was about 17 episodes. We sat down and we said, look, there's only so many times you can speak about the need of a home inspector and a mortgage broker and, you know, what a real estate broker can do, all important stuff.
Yeah.
But I just kind of got bored of it myself. And I was like, look, for me not to get bored about real estate topics, I do want to speak more about investing, because I really like building out my portfolio. It's how I'm in the process of creating my wealth through investing in real estate. So I want to share those stories. I know thousands upon thousands of people that have created long-term wealth through real estate. So I want to get those stories out, hopefully inspire someone.
Yep.
But it really was sitting down with people from the point of view of growing a business, not, you know, starting a business and failing. And I think that we learn a lot from people's successes, but I think we can even learn a lot more from others' failures. And so I wanted to document the journey, right? The ups and downs, as I like to call it, of entrepreneurship, running a company, growing a team.
Yeah.
Our realtors, along with my business partner, we have 33, but we also have 10 support staff. That 10 support staff is kind of, you know, my crew, my squad that I get to grow with.
I want to get to the squad, but before that, I just wanted to, you know, for those people that are watching us or listening to us right now that, you know, are thinking about starting a podcast and are afraid of this or afraid of that, and we know that this is something you grow into. You kind of figure things out as you go. Give us like a 2-second recap of how it was in the beginning for you and where you are right now and how you feel about the whole podcast world right now.
Yeah, so originally when I wanted to get started with creating content, I started a little higher up in terms of thinking, okay, how am I going to speak to the world? And at that time, I wasn't comfortable with video. I was just like, I don't like when the cameras come on, and I'm just not who I am. I can't write. There's no way I can write it. Like, I have trouble writing emails to people.
No scripts going on here, eh?
Yeah, no scripts. I'm not into writing. I love reading, and I love listening to audiobooks. And then I heard the word podcast, and it was actually from Gary Vee. He had a podcast. I was like, what is this thing? I Googled it and said, oh, you speak into a mic. And
off you go.
It's free. There's no cost to it. I'm like, okay. At that time, it's been like 22, 23 years of sales and service experience. And I've been speaking on the phone. Nobody's ever told me, Jazz, you have a bad voice. I don't want to speak to you. Like, you know, not that everyone said you have a very sultry voice, Jazz, but I never got any negative comments. I was like, okay, I can speak into a mic. I think people like listening. I got something to say. And being an interviewer, actually being the podcast host, I realized that was pretty easy too, because I did write down some questions at the start. But everyone else has to do the heavy lifting. Like right now, Jamie, like when you're on somebody's podcast, there's more, you got to project more energy, right?
Yeah, exactly.
As an interviewer, and you do a fantastic job. I've seen your other episodes. That you ask a few questions, and then, like I said, the guest has to do the heavy lifting. I was like, this is it. I love this, and it's free. I don't have to pay anything. And like the mic, the original mic I got was like $75. And so the biggest advice I can give to somebody who wants to produce content, just find out what you're comfortable doing. What are you naturally good at? Is it video? Is it audio? Or the written word? That's where you should start. And if you decide to do a podcast, do not worry about like Jamie, your equipment there is really nice, and I know you didn't start with that kind of stuff.
Definitely not.
I didn't start with a $75 mic, but even now you can literally connect a headset into your iPhone or Android and just start speaking, and it gets recorded in a voice. You record whatever you're saying in a voice recorder app, and then you put that into a software like Libsyn or Anchor, and they distribute it. That platform distributes it out to the iTunes, the Spotifys of the world.
So when did you decide that, you know what, now I've got a feeling for this, I like it, I want to take it to the next level, let me get a team, let me get more people? How did this whole thing start growing? How did that all get to be?
At the start, so I'm going to say first about 8 to 10 episodes. Laura, who was my co-host and executive producer actually at that time, she didn't even know what a podcast was, but even more than I. Like, she had no idea what to do in terms of uploading. God bless her soul, because she knew that she could go on YouTube and search and find out how to upload a podcast, how to put intro music on the front end and the back end. And for 8 to 10 episodes, that's all we did. But then I was like, Laura, like, you know, it'd be nice to just have you on as well. Like, let's just, you and I shoot the breeze, right? Because she's actually in the business with us as well, and she helps our clients. And I thought that would be a good way to bring her in. But then we would do a condo launch that turns our lives upside down. That's our real business. Our core business is selling real estate. And then we would be, you know, working 15, 16 hours a day. And then at the end of the day, we're very consistent every Wednesday, but I could tell we were getting tired. And I said, we're going to bring on someone. And this is for anyone who's listening or watching right now. If you're like, well, I can't afford anyone. There are thousands upon thousands of interns in any city that you're in. It might not be thousands if you're in a smaller city, but there'll be at least 4 or 5 people. You just got to keep on asking. And I brought on an intern, and I said, look, I can't pay you right now. Right now, I can't pay you, but I can help you build out your portfolio. I know you're in school. You're actually going to get real life experience. You're actually going to be on the inside of a business, a small business. You're going to interact with people. You don't see how important this is right now, but I promise you, this is something you're going to be able to take with you for a very long time. And if we stick with each other, I'll hire you part-time. And then after about 3 months of an intern, I hired her on part-time. And then she decided to go to another place. At that time, I was prepared and ready. I started with a part-timer then. And then I went to a full-timer. Then I had a big podcast with Ryan Serhant in New York. He called me to his office and on my way there, I was like, I should probably put this on camera. Okay, I'm ready to do this camera thing. Jamie, I turned on the camera and I fell in love, my man. I was like, this is it. This is it. Give me 5 of them now. And so now during this pandemic, I think the one thing that bothers me the most is that my squad's not here. Usually I got my videographer behind me, taping behind me. I got somebody taping in front of me. And so it's a little unfortunate with what we're going through, but we can't do that.
It is a different kind of world, indeed.
Different kind of world, it is.
Now, you touched on the guests and moving around and talking to a lot more people and all of that. And then, so, I mean, you've interviewed a lot of people up until now. What are those, I guess, those key guests, those memorable guests, the people that you really wanted to ask some questions and you got that chance? Which ones? Shoot us some names.
So Ryan Serhant, I just mentioned, and the reason being is because he's New York's, the state of New York's biggest realtor and like number 3 in all of America. So as a real estate agent, as a realtor, I definitely respect his work ethic, respect his business model. So I loved sitting down with him. He was actually probably our first big name from $1 Million Listing, Bravo's $1 Million Listing. And then the names that I always want to get, it just took me years of follow-up. Gary Vaynerchuk was someone that had the opportunity. I know you had the opportunity to meet him as well. Just someone that definitely was a mentor of mine from afar. And I relished the opportunity to meet him face to face, but also spend 4 or 5 hours in his office. I think I actually got more value because with Gary, I was following him for a year and a half or whatever it was before the podcast I did with him. So I kind of knew, I knew what I was getting anyways. And I was not surprised when I went there that he was really like that. For everyone else, they're like, is he really like that? And it's probably the most asked question I get, like, is Gary really like that?
Yeah.
And I would say, I already knew he was. It was his team, though, that I got to spend the 4 or 5 hours with. They blew my mind.
Because I guess he's always about cementing that culture, right? And he was able to do that to all of his team, I think.
100%, because what they were able to do when I sat down with the team, Jamie, they shared everything. They were like open book, man, open book, which was so refreshing because from a real estate perspective, we have 1,100 people in our office. Our organization is the 33 realtors and 10 support staff, but all of our doors are open at all times. And we share with all the other realtors. We're really trying to elevate the industry, and that's what I got from his team. And then of recent, I always wanted to get Grant Cardone, so I just had him on two episodes ago, or last Wednesday, I believe it was.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw that.
Yeah. So I wanted to get Grant on with somebody that I was always
Uncle G.
Yes, Uncle G, man. Uncle G, the 10X movement. And then there's some, you know what, there's some episodes that I've done that the names might not be as, like, not a lot of people would recognize the name, but the businesses that they run are fantastic. David McCourt is a name that really sticks with me. He was a guy who revolutionized the telecom industry in Boston and New York. In fact, what most people know him for is the Emmys he won as executive producer for Reading Rainbow, the educational programming in school. But his business, I mean, is worth $1.6 billion or something, ran an organization, I apologize, of like close to like 10,000 people, like just like a real big business mogul. And then one of the ones that have touched really close to my heart is a grade 8 project I did. I brought in 30 grade 8 students into the studio that everyone's looking at right now.
Yeah.
I'll show you the back wall there.
Little studio tour.
Yeah, I brought in 30 students and did 8 mini podcast episodes with them all, and it was part of a big school project of theirs. It was I'm going to say about a 3 to 4 month project. I went to theirs, myself and the team went to the school. We let them know what they're going to be doing when they come into the podcast studio, and they had to pick their own topic. And I was expecting a lot of like, it was grade 8 students, right? So I was expecting talking about clothes and food and sports. Dude, they were talking about world affairs and politics. Wow. and global warming, and I'm sitting at one point, and it's recorded, all of it. I'm like, holy crap, you guys taught me a lot today. Like, thank you, selfishly. Thank you for the effort that they put in, to see the smiles on their face when there was, out of the 30, there was probably like 22 of them that were scared, when the cameras and the lights go on. And I just said to them, I'm not going to let you guys down. Don't worry. If you're having trouble, I'll walk you through it. At the end of it, I had people saying, Jazz, can you leave? Can we host the podcast? And so there's a couple out of the 8 mini episodes we did where the kids had kicked me out and they took over the studio, and it was done in my hometown of Rexdale, and so that just meant a lot for me.
That's amazing.
The team really rallied around me because they knew it was from the hometown.
That's very cool. Now, in terms of starting this podcast world and social media and all, how has all of this changed the way that you do your own business, or even how you are now, like as a person? How much has it changed you?
Look, I'm going to be doing a podcast a webinar, essentially, like just doing content. This coming week, I have one for a group in Vancouver. I have one for a group right across the world. There's going to be 6,000 to 7,000 people that have already signed up for this webinar. I'm going to have a Jack Canfield, Les Brown, to name a few. All the names are on this. I'm one of the speakers as well. In terms of my business, when I originally started this, it was really only to give content and give education to the clients that already knew me. Okay, so the 15 years that I've been doing real estate, I wanted to make sure they had artillery, for lack of a better word. When they're speaking to their friends and family, they can say, look, you got to speak to my realtor. Here's the content that he does. Here's an easy way to consume his content, and the information when it comes to real estate. What happened, and I didn't even envision it, is more like word of mouth, right? People
Yeah.
started speaking about the REC experience. And at times I had to pinch myself. And luckily I had a co-host with me with Laura, and we would remind each other and be like, holy crap, that RC experience, that's ours. They're talking about our podcast, like people that we didn't know, right? And so now it started to venture right across the world. I was a guest on somebody who has a podcast out of Portugal, Saudi Arabia, Nigeria, and Australia, all in the last 90 days.
I know, it's pretty amazing, right?
I could never have imagined this when I got started.
Yeah, for sure. And so what's in the future of the podcast? What do you think?
I want to hit more episodes than Joe Rogan. And I say
you got a lot to go. You got to run.
A lot to go, and that's what I love about it. That's what I love about it. Joe's, I think, at 1467 or something like that. He was somebody that also inspired me, because the first time I heard podcasts was from Gary V, and then I just started Googling who else has one, and I came across the Joe Rogan Experience. I'm like, what the heck is this? Yeah. I was like, oh, I know this guy. He's from that Fear Factor show, and I see him on UFC.
Yeah.
And then I started watching his podcast. I was like, yeah, he's the podfather, man. He's the dog.
For sure.
He's the top dog.
Pretty good deal he got not too long ago with Spotify.
Gave him $100 million, and people are saying like, his value is $100 million. No, his value is $5 billion, because the day that he signed that deal with Spotify, their stock went up by about $5 billion in 24 hours. The value, sorry.
That's some impact right there from a little podcast, right? And that's what people are now. I think people are now starting to realize these things. Up until now, I think most people would look at TV, radio, the old media, which still has its value. I'm not saying it doesn't have its value, but they would think that was it. There's all the YouTube thing or the podcast thing. Don't worry about that. They would laugh it out and all of that. But now we're starting to see these big guys coming around going, it's my podcast. I do whatever I want, whenever I want, however I want. And the power is there. So now
that's what I love about
it's
it, right?
Changing the world. It's changing the optics.
And look, we can talk about whatever we want. You know what I mean? There's no ABC, NBC, and stuff like that that's regulating this conversation right now.
There's nobody saying commercials in 5 seconds. No, it's not there.
You know, and look, I've had opportunities where people have come across and said, "Look, man, do you mind if it's the REC experience brought to you by XYZ?" And I'm like, no, I just know where that's going. Like, I know where you go. Like, I know that you're gonna try to control who the guests are, and can I throw an F-bomb or not, and you know what I mean. And I don't want that. Like, I'm not trying to monetize this podcast. I mean, Spotify comes in and writes a check for $100 million. I mean, I'm listening. You know what I'm saying? So,
I think we all would be listening, but we'll wait for it.
I'm very fortunate. I run a business that pays me really, really well. I've been doing that for a very long time, where it gives me the opportunity to produce content and not worry about monetizing it. I don't think I've ever even looked at my follower count or all that kind of stuff. I just like getting DMs and messages. Hey, Jasmine, thanks for having XYZ on the podcast, or that inspired me, or oh my God, like I would love to sit down with you and pick your brain. And so for me, because I had mentors in my life, that inspired me, it's my time to pay it forward now, right? Yeah. And so I'm at that stage right now.
So are you're seeing yourself just doing more of what you're doing right now, or do you have some hidden plans back there that you're looking into doing?
I mean, it's not going to be hidden when I tell you right now, but other than starting my content.
It's okay. It's only the two of us. It's only the two of us.
That's awesome.
There's nobody
awesome.
here.
And I'm glad it's not being recorded.
No.
We I'm going to start doing animations now. And so that's coming. Like, I'm probably about a week and a half. I'd like to say a week and a half, but if you speak with my animator, she knows that it's probably a little bit longer than that. So I'm probably about 3 weeks away, let's call it, for having my first clip from the podcast. And then that's going to be my new exciting thing. I'm going to be doing more animation. I just love cartoons as a kid, right?
Where are you getting all the inspiration for these new ideas, for this new stuff that you want to put on? Are you getting inspired by other people, or?
It's a little mixture of everything. I think, I have a lot more time where I've grown the team now, even from a sales perspective, which allows me to sit back and just think with clarity. In all honesty, I'm going to say 90% of my ideas come in the shower. it really is my alone time. It's the time that I got no phone calls coming in. I tend to take longer showers. I'm probably in there for 25 minutes or so, and I'm just doing my thing. And it's where the inspiration comes from. It comes from me asking, right? Like, hey, like I will today, after we're done here, I'll do what I need to do in terms of work. And as I drive home, I got about a 35-40 minute drive home, which I on purpose have set up. Like some days it's an hour in, an hour out. And I say on purpose because that gives me the time to either listen to a podcast or just ask questions. And so a question that I'm consistently asking myself is, what is new? What am I going to do next? What is a different way I can articulate my thoughts? And as I ask myself these questions, the brain works like Google. It's going to find the answer. You just got to consistently ask yourself those questions.
Do you find that with this whole pandemic situation that we've gone through, that it's changed the way that the audience consumes material online, like podcasts and YouTube and all of that? Do you think that people are now more aware of what's out there because they had a little bit of extra time to kind of go through their feeds or find things out there? And do you think that that is going to change the future of how you put your content out there?
Yeah, look, I think as people were at home, I think there's more content creators that have come out of this than anything else, because out of necessity, if you're in business for yourself, you had to pivot. You had to figure out, how am I going to get my message across? And even starting with Zooms like these, a lot of people had a tough time starting out with a Zoom, right? Like getting it set up and how does it work and what's working.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
Am I on mute? Am I on mute? Right. So we heard a lot of that, right? And so what we needed to, so people had to brush up on their skills. Now people listening to a podcast more or watching YouTube videos, I'm not sure. I'll wait to see the numbers on that if they've increased. But I think podcasts and YouTube numbers were already getting higher pre-COVID and pre-pandemic. Why? Yeah. Because I remember reading a stat that back in 2 years ago, so 2018, 10% of people listen to a podcast. And these are American stats. And now it's at its high as 56%. And it only happened in 2 years. That's not that big of that's not that much time, right? But a huge jump. And so I'm not sure if I'm going to see, or we're going to see more people listening even after the pandemic. I think it's here to stay now. People know what podcasts are. It's how we consume content. It was already progression. Like the progression was already going up. Why? Because it saves us time, right? Yeah. Like the amount of people that tell me, Jazz, yeah, I go on your YouTube, but I never see you. Why is that? Because they press play.
And they put it to the side.
It's on the background. They're just listening to the audio.
Hey, listen, that's how I consume Joe Rogan. I just stream him to the TV. It's on the back there. I'm working. I'm looking at my computer, and he's just back there. And every once in a while, I'll look and see what's going on if they go on a tangent or something like that.
It's so funny you mentioned that, Jamie, because I don't think I've ever heard Joe in my car before. I don't think I have him on any of my platforms. But I do listen to his podcast, but it's through exactly the way you said it. Yeah. I put him on my TV because he's easy to find on YouTube. And then I find the platform of YouTube with his podcast, it's the most recent. He makes it really easy. I press play and I'm working away on my phone.
Yeah, that's what I do as well. All right, Jazz, I think we're basically done with today's podcasts. Is there any message that you want to put out there for my audience to go check you out? I mean, let them know where they can find you and how.
I appreciate that, man. The easiest way to find me is at jazztakhar.ca. That's JASTAKHAR.ca. Just started a new monthly newsletter. It's called the Real Newsletter. It's really how to follow my journey. And as I mentioned, the ups and downs of entrepreneurship and some real estate tips and really a lot of strategies from a mindset perspective and tactical ideas on really getting out of your own way. And that's coming from myself as well as all the guests that have been on the podcast. And you can sign up for that newsletter. It's free. There's no cost. I'm not going to spam you. I am looking for your permission to send you the newsletter. If you go to jazztakhar.ca, I just actually sent out the first edition a couple of days ago, and I got some amazing feedback. Just the slickness of it.
And people got all the links there to go check out your podcast and check out everything out from there.
Everything is on jazztakhar.ca. It's the easiest way to connect with me.
Can't get easier than that.
All my episodes are there, actually.
All right. Okay. Cool stuff. Thank you so much for being a part of this podcast, and we have to communicate it even more.
100%.
I think this should be like a yearly thing. We always have to check back and see what's going on.
I love that idea, buddy. As I said at the start, it really is a pleasure always seeing that face of yours, and your vibrations are good, man. And I'm a big fan.
Thank you so much, and we'll catch you on the next one.